So I love how they put me on the graveyard shift in between beers, so thank you for that, Nick. I suppose just to introduce who I am and my mugshot there and things. Basically, I, as I mentioned before, work for the Digital Capability Centre of Excellence for RBS. I suppose things just to pull out as part of the presentation. So we are a big organisation. We have our commercial arm, Coots. So those of you that have got lots of money might be banking with our Coots brand. But actually, you can see here a number of brands that I'm accountable for. So NatWest International, RBS International, Ulster NI, Ulster ROI, and Isle of Man. That made up, not including some of the support teams, is 20,000 FTE, full-time equivalents. As well, looking at sort of teams that we cover, a real sort of mix, so branch banking, contact centres, which I think most of you have got, so telephony, web chat, video bankers, Premier banking managers and business banking managers. So again, actually, our wealth management, our business, as I mentioned before, they will go out to customers' addresses or actual to their businesses to help them with their banking. So this is basically what I'm responsible for, and it's to continue to grow their development. So I suppose our journey, we're quite mature with the Bold360 product, and the thing I suppose really is around what were the challenges that we were facing at the time. So the first one was accessing the data. So as a bank, we've got a digital-first strategy where we want to help customers self-service more. The challenge that we had there is actually we introduced more roles like community bankers. You might see them in shopping centres, or they'll actually do drop-in centres to coffee places and so on. But actually, if they wanted to help the customer with their banking, whilst they can help them self-serve, they couldn't actually do things internally because they were in different locations. Again, our Premier banking colleagues couldn't access information. So if a customer wanted to open an account, they didn't necessarily be able to check identification, and that tended to lead to KYC fails and stuff. So actually, have we taken incorrect ID to open that customer's account? So that was one of the challenges that we're facing around how do we get our colleagues to access the data when they're in remote locations. As well as that, from a branch perspective and digital first, we wanted our colleagues to be front of house and therefore service and help our colleagues via iPads and things. Again, because of our security policies, and it always makes presentations very difficult, that was a challenge as well for our frontline staff. The next bit is inconsistent service, which I think has come across when I've had a few chats. So actually, through analysis of complaint data, we understood that actually one of our number one complaint drivers was actually colleagues giving misinformation. I gave the example around debit card timescales as just one of those key drivers around where misinformation was happening. The reason for that is that our content across our business was stored in all different areas. To give you an example of some of the state of the content, I went to one of our centres to help understand where they manage their processes, and they pulled out a file with a load of paper and said, here are our processes. So I looked at them a bit funny and said, well, what happens when that changes? They said, oh, we just type it up on Word and then we just print it off and then put it in the file. Not very digital first, not very helpful, and it led to that inconsistent service. As well as that, new entrants. So actually, a lot of our entrants will actually go through particularly 4 weeks academy training, and then a further 4 weeks actually in something called Grad Bay. So before they actually physically start dealing with customers' accounts, that's 8-week lead time. And what we found with a lot of the actual new entrants coming into the business was how could we get them to serve our customers and provide that excellent service quicker. So that was one of the other challenges. And how do we ensure that actually they've got that ongoing support, whether that's through the bot that I'm going to talk to you about or actually with someone sat by them. The other bit was call and chat time. So as a bank, we do monitor our average handling time. The main challenge that we found here is, and I don't know what you guys use, but we have process maps. Now, process maps are great to see the end-to-end of where it starts with the customer and where it finishes with the final processing center. But actually, you looking at that process map, having a conversation with the customer is extremely difficult. And what that was leading to was actually our colleagues really struggling to find information quickly and efficiently. And it was leading to sort of confusion. So how did we address the business challenges? So first of all, accessing the data. So with support with Bold360, we developed a My Knowledge app using conversational, using the AI platform. We called it Ella. So Ella is our everyday learning assistant, And Ella was actually named after the lady that we started to work with within Bold to actually build it forward. The benefit of that is, obviously, it's available for our colleagues to download within iOS and Android devices, and that also, we integrated it with our BES SDK. So we use BlackBerry Enterprise Services to keep our content secure, so I can access it from my work device, an iPad device. But what that enabled us to do, working with Bold and embedding that SDK with BES, was actually colleagues could access internal intranet sites, share points for information where we needed to signpost and stuff. So regardless if they were desktop-based or actually out on the road, they could access the information like for like, providing that consistent service. Another bit as well is inconsistent. So how did we start to solve the problem with inconsistent service? So again, we've utilized the Bold360 product to actually put all our content together. Now, I mentioned before the different brands. Subtle differences in our brands can be very challenging. For example, simple things, online banking, you all probably have that, or you use your mobile banking. NatWest terminology, they call it online banking. RBS, we call it digital banking, and so on. And that caused challenges with our content. So what we were able to do is actually use the Bold360 product and create variations of that article. So we might have one article which is how do you sign into online, how to sign into online banking. We'll have different intents, like how to sign into digital banking, and we would use user context to play back to personalize to that user depending on the brand. As well as that, so I mentioned before around the new entrants, how did we actually get them serving customers more quickly? So as again, using the My Knowledge product, we actually changed all of our induction and all our training programs. And what we enabled there was actually, throughout that session, My Knowledge was referenced throughout all the different induction, from how do you actually take a customer through security, how do you order a debit card, and so on. And what we've been able to do is actually reduce that 8-week period right down. So actually now they do 4 weeks induction, and then we'll actually put them on the phones with the customer, and we are using the data that we're using from the Bold360 to understand where are the knowledge gaps in the process for the new graduates that are coming through that system. Again, improving the average handling time. We've reviewed existing process maps and analysed the calls into our help desk. And through the analysis, we identified the main issue with agents required specific information to perform. So using the NLP, and I think the post office example that was done before was great, we've now put conversational decisions in our actual product, and that's helping our colleagues get information more quickly or signpost them to where they need to go. So My Knowledge doesn't handle HR type of queries, so things like, when do I get paid? I've got an issue with my tax. It very much serves that customer query from an internal perspective. But what we will do is we will push them to the right area as well. So we've actually seen some benefits in time. Before I play this video, because I will sort of pre-position this, what we have done as well, just in relation to accessing the data, we've started to really enhance our product. So we have developed a My Knowledge widget, and that sits in lots of our bank different applications. So our call centers use Cloud9, for example. Cloud9 is the system they would use if you phoned up. We've now started to integrate the actual My Knowledge widget actually physically into that system. And what that allows the agent to do is they don't need to go off into a desktop or a support center to get that information. We've taken it a step further, where we've started to use IVR and match the intent tag and push that through into the widget. So we're actually removing the element of the agent having to search or chat. They can still chat within the widget, but if the customer comes through saying, what is Mimo? Because we're launching a new product called Mimo. It will push that intent into the actual widget automatically, and then the customer can, the colleague can push the information back to the customer as well. So, as I said before, it's very difficult because it's an internal product. A lot of the stuff is locked down, and because of there's things like anti-money laundering on there, which is very difficult. I'm going to play this video. I'm going to position it because it's got an American robotic voice, but hopefully this will bring it a little bit to life, and we'll see how this goes. So, is the sound? The sound is not playing.
Hi, I'm Ella, your everyday learning assistant. My purpose is to help frontline colleagues with any customer-based queries they may have, from product features to processes.
Okay, that's not playing through the screen. Digital capability, but can't get it to play through the screen, so I'll leave it to this expert. There you are. Look at that.
Hi, I'm Ella, your everyday learning assistant. My purpose is to help frontline colleagues with any customer-based queries they may have, from product features to processes. You can interact with me via the My Knowledge desktop or app, wherever and whenever you need me. Alternatively, I will also be popping up on more bank applications throughout this year, such as Livy Engage, Customer Account Opening, and Secure Toolkits and Cloud9. To continue providing a frictionless agent journey, whether this be a question about income and commitments whilst completing a loan quote, or talking an agent through opening an account compliantly, I'm now automatically finding the answer from the customer's web chat conversation without the agent having to do anything, and will be shortly doing this for telephony calls too. Unsure what to ask me? Here are some other things I can help you with. Need to know the nearest Premier Relationship Manager to your address? No problem. Unsure what ID to accept? I can tell you. Need to authorize a payment? Let me show you. I've been extremely helpful this year in assisting agents across personal and premier banking by answering 94% of the 942,000 interactions each month, saving them time and getting the information right, and this is only increasing.
With the robotics is a little bit, but it just hopefully highlights a few bits. So just to touch on a few things. So what we've been doing is our key activities in 2019 is actually we've expanded our agent support. So actually we've built our agent assist, as we sort of call it, into Live Engage. So that's where the widget's now in our web chat. So whereas the customer and the post office example showed you where you were typing it, push through into the web chat, and the colleague could push back to Penny, I think the name was. Unsecured toolkit, so that's used for loan quotes. So if you did want a loan, again, we get a lot of questions around, can I accept child income support and things? So we put that widget into there to answer colleague queries as well, and customer account opening. So actually we do have a lot of regulation in the banks. Some of the things are heavily regulated where we need to report to the FCA. So actually now we've got our customer account opening, My Knowledge, in there, and it supports with identifying the customer, so making sure we're getting the right documentation and things as well. I'm going to come on to some statistics of where we're at to. Again, we're continuing to optimize. So again, you know, these bots, once they stand up, it's keeping them going, maintaining them, which is always a challenge. So we've made some enhancements to our site menu. We've improved our web-based, we've introduced a web-based application and things as well. And you can actually see, we've been going at this probably 18 months in the conversational space, but you can see all the different areas that we've actually now live with. So branch banking, mobile branch fans, we're probably, a lot of us are sort of London-based, but actually we do have mobile bank fans that go all over Scotland in really remote areas. So again, they've got access to content. Our telephony sales and service teams. We're now starting to move into our shared services operations. So again, they're specific teams that look after tax and so on and things as well. So you can just see actually from our 2019 activities where we've actually scaled the product. And I will say it is because of the simplicity of the Bold360 product that you can quickly scale your content. Highlights, so that video that said there was 942,000 was actually done around July this time. We're now up to 2 million interactions per month across our internal colleagues. Top 3 teams, telephony service, branch banking NatWest, and digital customer support NatWest. We have 5,600 My Knowledge app downloads. You're probably thinking, well, if you support 20,000 colleagues, why that number is low? We don't give devices to all of our colleagues. If you think a telephony agent doesn't need to have an iPad and an iPhone, so those are actually our branch, certain branch colleagues and Premier Banking and community bankers, hence the 5,600. Again, our conversational self-service scores increased, so 97.5%. We look at that from a containment, so actually where we've helped the agent to self-serve. Again, they're using the thumbs up, thumbs down that you saw as the escalation. That'll affect that score, and then I use that as a reporting measure. This is just a highlight, and you know we did in a section around business cases. I actually took this study, so I did a time and motion study with our telephony service team to look at the benefits of introducing the conversational bot. And this was looking at an agent using an old process map, but then actually spending time on My Knowledge. And as a result of actual these average handling time savings, it did save the business over £1 million. So again, if you're thinking that sort of business case, and that was an isolated study on our telephony service, I didn't take it big bang and do branch because it's very difficult because you can't really track face-to-face interactions as easy as well, but it just highlights some of the benefits there. Moving forward, and I've mentioned, it's how do you continue to keep the bot on the road. So again, we are using data now to drive our priorities. A lot of you said, where do I start? And that is always a hard, difficult point. But once you get the physical thing deployed, it's how do you then drive through data. So we use feedback and agent tracking. I use that in 2 ways, to see what colleagues are actually providing us of feedback, and that will then lead to either improvements with content, or we'll escalate to our change teams to improve the process. But I will also track my team's performance around how are they actually answering colleagues' queries as well. MI, so we provide knowledge-based MI. Again, we take that through to different areas so they can see what's popular, what's trending. So someone mentioned Brexit. I've got content ready, keeps on being put back, but we expect that potentially when that does happen, we'll have a load of customer queries come in and things as well. So we will start to track to see if there's any potential gaps in our knowledge base. And the way we do that, again, the Voices dashboard, which was demonstrated with the post office, again, my team daily will actually monitor that to see where we can continually improve and grow the bot. So that's where I would say if you are bringing in bots, use data to drive your priorities. Just very quickly, before there is any questions, just some things just to sort of float your ideas. So these are some of the things that I'm thinking for 2020. So again, what we're looking to do is something called alert bar. So this is, I mentioned comms, people don't read comms. This is where we want to push notifications through to our agents to say, hey, by the way, this process has changed. You need to click me to say you've read me, or an instant. Again, we have lots of different systems where we need to channel phone numbers, and actually we have an issue where you need to remove spaces. So we've put in what's called a click-to-copy feature, which will actually help agents with transferring the customer through to the right department. UI personalization, so I mentioned it before, but what is Ella knows who you are, so I have that data, but now I want to use that data to pre-populate information to save the agent more time. Again, we're continually transitioning to conversational flows. I'll be really open and honest, when we started this journey, and I look back at the old content that we created to what we create now with my team, in that sort of 9 months or whatever, it's amazing where you start and where you go to. So you will continually to design your conversational flows. Bot-to-bot handoff or bot orchestration, I think Bold360 talk about, but this is how do you start to join your different bots up. You might be in an organization that does have lots of different bots or content stores. How do you start them to talk to each other together? And then MI reporting. So again, how do we start to provide individual team center reports? And actually, what then does that mean to the business? So can we see a trend of this person hasn't followed the process that's led to a customer detriment? What does that then mean to the business for them to have that business conversation? And again, we're continuing to add the My Knowledge widget into lots of different applications. So that's everything I wanted to sort of just go through on a high level. I think, to summarize my journey, obviously there's a lot of learning throughout of it, but I think I do deal with other products. So whilst I use with Bold360, there is other products that I've been privy to. And actually what I will say about the Bold products, I am a big promoter of it, because everything is in one simple UI. It does make it so much easier for me to bring people in, train them up very simply to really grow that. And I think some of the guys and girls and stuff that have used the system, that sort of resonates around the room. I suppose to open up to questions, if I'm good for time, Rob at the back. Yeah. Yeah.
So thank you for sharing all that. The quick question I've got is when employees provide feedback on how it can be improved, how do you recognise it? And how do you reward that behaviour? I'm thinking about the adoption side.
Yeah, certainly. So I suppose so what we use is we use the ticketing interface. So what we've done within the Bold product, there's something called contact forms. So I've designed a contact form specifically to capture certain information. So what brand are you dealing with? What area do you work in? What's your email address? And what we do there is, so where we've given potentially a bad experience, the agent will put the thumbs down. That will then provide that contact form. When they fill that in, that goes into the ticketing within the Bold360 platform. We will then, as part of our, and this is again where I'm saying working agile, my team will then assign who needs to look after that ticket. We will either channel it through to, so if it's a legal query, we will channel it through to legal to get them to actually provide us the information that we're looking for, and then we will go back to the colleague that submitted it. So we really push the sort of feedback, that continuous improvement. I mentioned something called closed loop feedback in the panel session. Colleagues are promoted to give us improvement ideas. Some of them are way out there, and we need to just manage that conversation, but we continually go back to the agent, so much so that now what they're asking for is they want to be able to ask Ella, can you tell me all the feedback, and they can see where it's up to. Because I do also use it for an audit purposes from a bank perspective, because if we change the process off the back of the information, we can go back, and if there was an incident that happened, I can go back and see why it was changed. So we actually keep the ticket reference in the actual system as well. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions? Getting off lightly.
Simon, might sound like being the witness, I don't mean to. How much of the leadership at RBS do you think really understand what it is you're doing and how much value you're driving?
Yeah, so to be honest, we've had change in CEO. So Ross McEwen is now going over to Australia, and Ali Ross has come in to head up the whole of our operations and stuff. And to be fair, it's like one of those things that you've written really well. She went into a branch to just see, how the branch was performing, and it was great. It was like I teed up the agent in there to say exactly what I wanted her to say, and she said that actually without Ella, they wouldn't know how to do their job because everything is pushed through. I think to answer your question, Nick, from a board with Franz Walder, our Chief Executive Officer, he's had more presentations and stuff of the benefits this year than even before we started the journey. So it's, and Les Matheson, those that know him, our MD for Personal Premier Banking, he put it in his H1 innovation successes. The actual app development that we did with Bold360 was also shortlisted for a Learning Technology Award. So we were in the top 10 and out of, I think there's about 3,000 different applicants. So it's definitely got the PR and accolades that it deserves, and that's credit to the Bold team and my guys that work on it. Any other questions?
Excellent. Thank you, Simon. Great.
Cool.